We're 2-3. Oh, we may not have a Super Bowl window. Get it together. We got a game tomorrow. Either ride or get out the car. If you're scared, say you're scared. Roll it. We are here. We are here. I got my man, 10 grand, Tom Jensen, with another installment of the Faithful Review. Look, Tom, let me know how you feel before we get into it. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. Hey, I got a job. And my job is secure right now. I feel good.
Love that.
Right? They the ones who making millions of dollars, brother. We could just sit back and watch it all go down, right? But what I wanted to get into is, we got a game tomorrow, okay? Yeah. And this is a real one. We got the Seattle Seahawks coming in, and what I want to do right now is get straight to it. Let's go with the quick overview of the 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks matchup. Critical analysis is what we're going to give you today. We need to talk about what's at stake, playoff implications if there are any, right? And why both teams are desperate for a win. I know why we're desperate for a win, for all of the obvious reasons. Keys to the game, including turnovers, which affected last game, the timely fumble by Jordan Mason in the red zone, the ending pick by Brock Purdy that got floated into the air in the last ending drive. I mean, it was bad, right? Third down efficiency, which we seem to struggle with, particularly in the red zone, and momentum control. We can't forget that we're going into hostile territory, right? Seattle is no friendly foe. They love to turn it up against us, right? So go ahead. What I want to do is just get into the tail of the tape in a sense, right? So really, the overview right now is we've got the San Francisco 49ers about to go into Seattle Thursday night, tomorrow at 8:15. What we got right now basically is for our offense, we're second overall in total offense, seventh in rushing, fourth in passing. We have the number 10 scoring offense in the NFL, which is kind of crazy because, numbers can't lie, Tom, right? And do, right? As far as the other side of the ball on defense, we're the 10th overall defense, the 9th rushing defense, 12th rushing overall defense, and the 13th overall scoring defense. And that is a little misleading as we've seen things dwindle. We've had peaks and valleys throughout the season already within 4 games coming up, right? Going in to see the Seattle Seahawks, what they give us on offense is that they're 7th overall on offense, right? This is an offense, honestly, that I feel like they have more to give. They haven't been necessarily running the ball. They rank probably dead last or one of the last teams in rushing attempts in the league, and their ratio of running versus passing is wildly skewed. I'm thinking about 70 to 30%. We've heard from Coach McDonald and all of their all of the fans alike and pundits and content creators on the Seattle Seahawks side of the ball that, hey, they want to get their run game going. With that, they rank 22 overall in the rush, 3rd in passing, which we just talked about, and they're right behind us with 11th in scoring overall defense. With their defense, again, Tom, they're 11th in overall defense with us sitting 1 notch ahead of them in 10th overall defense, 20th in rushing defense, 7th in pass, and 18th in scoring. Right now, it seems as though that where you want to say we have an advantage, you look at they have clear advantages, or when you want to say they have disadvantages, you look at it's a pretty dead set even game, especially coming into this game. What do you feel, Tom?
I agree with that we have strengths and weaknesses. They have strengths and weaknesses, and it's how do those all match up? But coming into this, Seattle knows that they've been passing the ball too much. Part of that is because they haven't had their D-line. Their defensive line hasn't played. They missed all 4 defensive linemen against Detroit, and that's why that game was a heavy passing game. It's the only way they could stay in it because their defense was so depleted. So that's part of the equation for them is the game situation forced them to pass, in at least that one. Against the Giants, they also last week they didn't run. But I think that, as Grant said earlier today, both teams looked ahead to this game in the way that they were approaching it, that neither one wanted to reveal much in the run. I think that both teams are going to be counting on the run game in this. And then you look in the big picture in this as far as what's at stake. If the Niners lose this, they're 0-3 in the division, and they'll have way too many losses in the NFC. If they lose this, it basically means they will lose, in most likelihood, any playoff tiebreaker for seeding. They'll just lose it. The first tiebreaker in the division is division record after head-to-head. They lose this, they'll go 0-3. Past years, they've gone undefeated in the NFC West. 0-3 would be a pretty deep hole to dig out of. So that's why the Niners need to win this game, because otherwise it's trouble. The other concern for them is the schedule. They've got the 5th hardest schedule in the league for the rest of the year. So it's not going to get any easier. They've got to win this game.
100%. What I'm looking at right now is what are they going to give us as far as injuries are concerned? I mean, if both teams are healthy, we got a slobber knocker of a game, right? Yeah. But that's just not the reality right now. Their offensive line, let's just start there. They're a little beat up. Right? At right tackle, they're going to be going in with Stone Forsythe, all right? A sixth round pick that they picked up a while ago. I mean, 6'9", 312. He's definitely somebody with a low pass grade block at PFF with a 40.4 pass grade block. Overall offensive grade with a 42.3. And a run block of 52.3. And then again, right next to him, Anthony Bradford. I'm being nice, but he struggles, less than 40% grade overall and in pass and run blocking out of 70 graded guards in PFF. He's the 70th graded guard in PFF. And Forsythe is right there at the bottom of the barrel out of 78 possible graded tackles. He's 74th overall. But again, you'd look right back over us on the offensive line and look at our right side of the offensive line, right? We're bringing in a rookie, Pooney, right, where we love what Dominic Pooney has given us, but he grades a little lower, right, for what he does, right? But we see the worth in him. And then Colton McKivitz is Colton McKivitz, right? Now, what they do have is they've got a really good left tackle in Charles Cross. Right. Charles Cross is somebody, Mississippi State Bulldog, 6'5", 307, dog. I mean, 80 percentile in most of all his grades out of PFF. I mean, this is somebody who definitely is going to be somebody that they're looking to lean into, especially when they're trying to get Kenneth Walker III and Charbonnet off the ground. What do you think about their run game versus us stopping their run? What can they do against us?
They can do a lot, especially if they go to 21 personnel. I think they're going to use 2 tight ends a lot to cover for their weakness in the offensive line with their injuries. But yeah, they can go behind Cross. There's a lot they can do. McDonald acknowledged earlier this week in a press conference that they're not running enough. They have to run the ball more. Everyone in Seattle, I live in Seattle, so I've heard the talk. All of the talk is run, run, run. They're looking to make this the Kenneth Walker show. They're planning to run. They look at the Niners' weakness as a run defense without Dre Greenlaw. The Niners are 22nd in the league in rushing yards per carry. They're not doing that well. They're not shutting it down. They're also having tackling issues. So Seattle's game plan is going to be a lot different from what they've done the past 2 games. They're going to look to establish the run a lot. But that doesn't mean they're just going to abandon the pass. They can still go that route. It's going to be a question of how does the line perform? Are they going to be able to do what they need to do to keep the Niners out? Because they're not a well-ranked team. I think they're 30th in pass block and run block win rate. They're low. Part of that is injuries. Part of that is just a young team that's not cohesive yet. But that's something they're going to have to weigh as the game goes on. Can we
Definitely.
win? Can we win this matchup? And so they'll look to establish Walker both as a runner and as a receiver in checkdowns and in their screen game.
100%. What I see right now, especially in PFF, is that they're ranked in the 90th percentile in their run game, as though, and on top of the fact that they don't utilize they haven't utilized the run that much throughout the season, so they're primed to go to run the ball. Right now, also one thing that I wanted to bring up is that Geno Smith is somebody who is going to get missed in the run game. All right. And when you think of the run game, you don't necessarily want to bring up Geno Smith, but I'm gonna tell you, Tom, Geno Smith has quietly ranked up 146 yards. All right, rushing yards. He averages about 8 yards a carry. All right, and he's rushed already for 30 times this season, so he will run. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're looking at what he averages about about a game, he's gonna about run the ball around 2 to 3 times, but he averages 30 yards a game. So that lets you know that when he runs, it's timely and it hurts. Right. And those are some of the things where we're going to be going against. We're going to be thinking about Kenneth Walker III and Charbonnet and Lockett and Metcalf. And we're going to be all on Fant and, trying to stop their guys. But that's going to be the fly in the ointment, in my opinion, is that we got to be able to stop Geno Smith.
Yeah. And the problem with that is that Geno has a history of beating the Niners on 3rd and long for first downs. And the Niners have a history of when that happens, they give up the backbreaker first down to a quarterback that scrambles. Usually that means that a team's going to score on the Niners. That's been their history. So Geno can do that, and he has done that against the Niners in the past. He'll do it again in this game. That's one of the underrated aspects of his game is he can scramble and go. And go for big gains. So that's something they're going to have to concern themselves with. But the Niners do a poor job of quarterback containment, setting the edges, stopping a quarterback from running. And we saw what happened last week. Kyler early in the game, 50 yards touchdown. Can the Niners stop this? No.
Well, right now, if you look at what we've done thus far throughout the season, you have Jordan Mason has ran for 536 yards for 3 TDs this year, or for 105 carries. Right now, I see that they're trying to get Isaac Guerendo. I want to give him credit, right? They're trying to get Isaac Guerendo involved, right? But for pass versus run ratio and that broken down by percentage, the Niners are running the ball for about 40%, roughly a little over 40% a game, which is nothing compared to what they did last year. I mean, last year we were split right down the middle. I think as the playoffs bore out, we started passing the ball a lot more, especially with having Christian on our team. He's more than just a running back, but for not having that Christian-like player on our team, I feel as though that, we're going to get into it later in the show, but I don't understand this emergence of passing, right? I have a tweet that I saw, and I know you saw it because I think you replied to it, but I saw something on Twitter that there are whispers inside of the Niners locker room that Kyle is calling games as if his father is watching him. And, it's a little poignant from the standpoint of, I just really am perplexed at where we're missing not only our starting running back, but the offensive player of the year, right? And we have a quarterback who thrives in tempo, finding his best weapons, making easy throws and participatory throws, finding areas, and being just a step ahead of the defense. It is confusing to me why we're trying to take the glory road on winning games. I do not understand it.
I don't either. And it's Emmanuel Acho that said that Kyle's calling plays as if his dad was in the stands and Kyle wanted to make his dad proud.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Now, we'll get into this more later, but you have to know who you are. This is an offense that's a rhythm-based offense. You get in a rhythm, you get going. You get the run game established. You get the play action working. you march down the field, and then you go in and score. Not
Right.
having CMC hurts them in the red zone, definitely. But Kyle still needs to be true to who the Niners are. And that means you run first, you establish the run, and you create a rhythm that the team can feed off of. If you pass too much, it's hard to establish a rhythm, and they can struggle.
100%. So going into our next topic, must win showdown. Look, we're 2-3. These boys are 3-2. We need to break down the must win scenario. And you deserve a round of applause, sir, because you came out with the topic of Seattle being a must win game. It's something that the Niners have to pay attention to. It doesn't even matter what happens against Arizona. And you brought this topic up. Like, as a matter of fact, the flow of our show is you and I go back and forth, partly because I'm working all day. And we go back and forth about topics usually, right? And
Always.
basically, and when we come up with the topics, I always come off with, hey man, this is what I got. Throw me what you got, and what you want to do. And usually, if there's something that you're adamant about, you kind of like take the mantle. It's like, hey, this is what we're talking about. This is the title. This is why I want to talk about it, because I noticed that a lot of the topics that you want to talk about also draw syntax to your column, right? On what you've been writing about, right? Which is
what
awesome.
I'm thinking about. Sure.
Right. And I got to be honest, when you first brought this up, I thought it was a little bit premature, right?
Yeah.
I was like, why does he want to talk about Seattle when, Arizona's staring us right in the face? But dude, here we are. And this is a must-win situation, in my opinion.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's crucial. Right now, the Niners are 2-3. Okay. We're third in the division, sitting at 2-3. Seattle is first in the division right now at 3-2. All right. And we've lost to 3 NFC opponents. It's not looking good for us, not only for our playoff implications, but if you just get into the nitty-gritty of what we have to do just on our side of the division, right? We're kind of behind the 8 ball right now. And right now, losing another NFC game, a divisional NFC game, puts us at 0-3 in the division. No, 0-2. 0-3, yes. 0-3 in the division. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, we lost to the Rams. I forgot. 0-3 in the division. All right. That puts us dead last in the division. Okay. And even if we have some type of, I don't know, come to Jesus moment and find our life against Dallas and the Chiefs that are waiting for us, by the way, even if we win or lose this game. For context, by the way, just a side note, we have the number 5 toughest ranked schedule for the rest of the season after this game, right? So it doesn't get easier for us, right? The only thing that we got coming our way is a week 9 bye. That's the least they could do, right? Is give us a bye, smack dab in the middle of the season, right? But outside of that, we have no contingencies. Nobody's feeling sorry for us whatsoever. No. Talk to me about how you feel about what could happen if we lose. What are the stakes involved? What needs to happen? And basically how we'd be fighting for our wild card lives if we lost this game. So many things would have to happen before we would have our destiny back in our hands if we lost this game. So talk to me, Tom.
So you look at the games that are coming up. You've got Seattle. If they lose this, what's the danger that they can then go into a tailspin? You're going up against Kansas City, who's had your number throughout. That's probably a loss. Now, you're at 2-5. And so how do you get out of that hole? And so the first challenge is to maintain their record, because that's what they're going to need to have. And you figure that to be a wild card team, you probably need to be 10-7, because if you're 9-8, you have to win tiebreakers to get in. If you've lost a lot of NFC games, that's the first tiebreaker for wild card, and you can lose that and miss the playoffs entirely. So you look at this season, you say, okay, they got to go 10-7. You look at the teams that they're playing, and they don't catch a break. It's Seattle, Kansas City, Dallas, and then Seattle again when they'll be a lot healthier and have all their people back in theory. And then you've got games in Green Bay where it's currently forecast to snow and rain that day, and then in Buffalo in December. And then you still got to play in Detroit. Yeah, how are you going to do with all those games? Chicago at the end of the year, they're playing better ball. There's no break. There's no easy team. Yeah, they play in Tampa. You got to fly all the way across the country and then play the Bucks. The Bucks are playing pretty well. They're not always, but we'll see. So it's just there's no way that they can recover from a 2-5 hole to get to 10-7, given who they still play. It's a really tall mountain to climb, which is why this game is so important. Is that this is a winnable game. They have to pay attention not just to the division record, but their overall record, because that's going to probably define if they make the playoffs or not.
In what ways, what's the fallout? How do you finish out the rest of the season if you're the 49ers and you lose this game? I mean, Dallas, you got to look at it this way. Let's be honest. Tyshawn Samuel said it himself. We think we're the best team for the past 4 to 5 years. And you know what? I believe him. They've acted like they think they were the best team in the NFL for the past 4 to 5 years. And the NFL is a man's league. And in the man's league, you got to pay the piper, right? The king dies just the way he wins, all right? And there are going to be so many teams that are not going to have any cut cards for us. You think Dallas is going to care that we just lost to Seattle?
Dallas is circling the Niner game because we keep owning them.
Come on, man.
They're going to be fired up. That's going to be one of their biggest games of the year.
You know how many teams are going to be fired up to play us if the blood really starts getting put? If we start chumming the waters with a loss in Seattle, the Sharks are coming, baby. I'm telling you, it's more than just a struggle season, but you got to look at how can I put this? The human element of the game. We're going to get everybody's best. We're going to get everybody's best.
We always do regardless, but if we show blood, if we show weakness, teams are going to say, we can beat this team. They're not who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And the Niners are going to start to doubt themselves if they go into a losing streak.
Right.
And we have to determine, and the Seattle game is going to do a lot of this, are the Niners hitting bottom right now, or are they still on their way down? We're not going to find out the answer to that until the Seattle game's done.
I think that's a beautiful, that's aptly put, man. We don't know how deep the cut is. Like we don't know if this is, you know what? And you know, right now, I do feel this, how can I say, this bated breath, right? Where it's kind of like there's a side of the fan base that kind of sees it for what it is, right? Hey, if you're losing these games against these guys this way, you know, one can deduce that you're going to struggle with other teams down the line, right? That's the pragmatic side of it. But I do feel like there's a little bit of a holdback or a temperance of people saying we've been here before, right? You know, we remember Dr. York coming in, had to come to practice. We remember York Gate, right? Remember that? When Dr. York had to come in, walk around practice, right? D'Amico was a rookie defensive coordinator. Stuff wasn't looking too good, right? We had to turn it around. So we've been here before. I think fans are waiting to see something that they haven't seen before they start really leveling their criticism, right? We've been at 2-3. We've been, we've struggled before. We've ran off and had eight-week win streaks. We've ran off and taken ourselves all the way back to the NFC Championship game. I think fans are going to they're waiting to see something different, as in 2-4 and the way you lose to Seattle could completely change the tapestry of how the season goes. The fabric of the season could be altered completely.
Yeah. Negative momentum can carry this team down further, where they can start to doubt themselves and doubt their execution. They've gone 2-3 or had sub 500 openings to the season before, but it hasn't been 0-3 in the division, 0-4 in the conference. That's the difference. Plus, those other years, they had the one moment that turned a season around. Trading for McCaffrey changed everything. Debo as a wide back changed everything. What's going to be the flip the switch moment this year that can carry them forward for the rest of the second half of the year? Probably doesn't exist. It might be, if you're lucky, you get McCaffrey and Greenlaw back, and that becomes this flip the switch moment for this year. We'll see. But counting on people with Achilles injuries to come back and save you is a Hail Mary to begin with, because you've got an injury that doesn't necessarily just go away. It lingers. So they've got that problem. The other problem is a lack of faith in Kyle, is that after the Super Bowl, are they starting to doubt or starting to tune out Kyle and saying that we're not going to get this done? You will also look at the players and say this offseason was basically a whole bunch of independent contractors. And the Niners drifted apart into islands where they're their own businesses. And that's who this team is right now. In the past, they had cohesion. They had a fallback. We're the Niners. We have our standard. We're going to play to that. We're going to get back to it. This year, they don't have those things. And so how are they going to make that climb back if they lose this game? It's another reason why this game is so important. Plus, you look at it from the perspective of Seattle is banged up. They've got a lot of players missing that are key. And they're not going to have Byron Murphy. They're not going to have Reek Woolen. They're not going to have Uchenna and Wusu.
So, let's get right into that. Let's get right into it. Let's do it. Right. So right now, let's go ahead and start it right now. Let's get into the 49ers offense and Seattle's defense, and let's just get into the key matchups, right? Because that's really what's going to make or break this game. There's a lot of key injuries on both sides of the ball. Ours are documented, right? Christian McCaffrey's not here. Dre Greenlaw's not here. Some of the notable recent injuries that we have is Jake Moody recently has gone out with a lower extremity injury. I think it was his ankle on a low on a tackle on a kickoff. Outside of that, Talanoa Hufanga has just been placed on IR with torn tendons in his wrist. So he's going to have to get looked at from that perspective. Also, Jordan Elliott. Jordan Elliott was somebody who has been nursing a rib injury, an oblique injury, and we had to see exactly what he's been doing in practice thus far. One thing I will say is that he did practice recently, and we already know about Dre, right? So we already know where Dre stands, and but for the Seahawks, they're missing some really important guys, notably Reek Woolen. They're all world, in my opinion, young, talented corner. That's a big loss for them. Also, Uchenna Nwosu is one of their best, if not the best, pass rusher that they have. He's not going to be in. For the game tomorrow. Also, they're going to be missing a huge chunk of their offensive line. Their right tackle is not going to be playing. Their big rookie D tackle. He's not. Well, I mean, he's been out for most of the year, basically. If I'm correct,
he's been out with a hamstring. They expect him back next week, but not this game.
Right. So they have some key injuries that are coming in. Also, I heard that Jordan Love, their newly acquired safety, that's been fitting in very well with them. He's got some injuries that he may not be able to go coming into this week. So right now, I will say. Oh, and did I? Oh, also, Boye Mafe is
he's going to play.
Okay, Mafe's going to play.
He was a full participant in practice. He's going to play.
Okay. So we already know that there's a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball for both teams where, the game will be completely different if they were coming in. Right now, I will say, again, this is enticing because and not enticing in a good way, but I mean enticing based off of what the Niners have shown us thus far. We want them to run the ball, but I got to be honest, Nehemiah Pritchett is not a guy. The corner that's coming in, they're stretching their depth big time. And Trey Brown is already a mark. All right. So right now, if you look at what they're giving us on defense, you still got to count for Devon Weatherspoon. He's still a dog. Okay. He's going to be somebody that will get you. But if you look at their line, if you look at what they're doing for pass rush, they don't have a lot in pass rush. Interior on their defensive line is something that is going to be the matchup to me. In my opinion, this is the matchup of the game. Leonard Williams versus Aaron Banks. That right there is going to be the make or break of what forces Brock out of the pocket, if we can even run the ball to the left side. God, man, can you believe it? Like we've come to a point right now where we're even asking things like, can we even run the ball on the left side? I mean, right now, the Leonard Williams versus Aaron Banks matchup is going to be big. And one thing that I will say, as watching Aaron Banks, I've watched all of the tape this season from an offensive line perspective, that is. And what I will say is that Aaron Banks struggles with playing half a man. He does not like playing against girthy players, pause. But another thing is that he doesn't do well with size. He leans, all right. He lunges. He plays. He's a waist bender at times, and he doesn't stay rooted in his cleats, especially when how can I say this? You know, you get a little bit, you get cocky, or you have confidence, rather, is a better word for it, in the offensive line when you're playing against guys who you know you can block, right? Or you're comfortable with their strength. Leonard Williams is a whole ass man, okay? And I'm gonna tell you this right now. He is stronger, bigger, and faster than Aaron Banks. All right. So right now, if we talking about offensive line versus defensive line matchups, we're looking at, like, I don't know, a grizzly bear versus a cow. just being just giving it to you the real way. Like,
okay, yeah,
the cow got some girth. He can kick. He can moo a little bit. He can hit you with the horns and lock up, you know. But that damn grizzly bear is a whole different animal, okay? No pun intended. So I'd like to get your take on how this defense, right? Who, by the way, we have not mentioned, very good complementary linebackers in Trey Dodson, which is a dog in my opinion. I love Trey Dodson, and Jerome Baker. These are two guys that fly, okay? We're talking about sub 4.4 guys. These are 4.4, 4.5 runners. They go sideline to sideline. They will come downhill and thump, okay? But they're a little undisciplined. What I want to know, what I want to know from you is, because it all starts up front, how do you feel about the matchup with their defensive line versus our offensive line, particularly the Leonard Williams versus Aaron Banks matchup?
With Williams, he's the kind of player that's going to win 3 or 4 plays and just get in the backfield and stop it. When does that happen for the Niners? They're always counting on running left because they're a left-handed team to run behind Trent. Can they count on that to get the run that they need? Yeah, no, because Leonard Williams can come in, just go right past Banks and shut down the run. The Niners have to find a way to get some level of balance left-right. Hard to do given their personnel on the right-hand side. So they're going to need to be creative. They're going to need to put a whole bunch of talent to try to get rid of Williams in whatever way they can. They've got to be strategic in trying to eliminate him. They need to look upon it the way that they do, where they scheme for Aaron Donald and did in the past. I think that's what they're going to need to do in this game with Leonard Williams. They're going to need to say, how do we take this guy out of the game? They're going to have to come up with a game plan for him specifically. If not, he can disrupt too much, and that's a problem.
Hey, well, I agree with you. You know, from your lips to God's ears, this is just another guy who Kyle is going to have to engineer around. We've done this before, right?
Yeah.
These guys are not all the same, but when you have a defensive line where, and good for us, they're a little imbalanced as far as talent across the board is concerned, right? They're not congruent. Now, when you play against 5 dogs, we got time to talk about that down the line, down the season, where we can talk about a defensive line that we're going to see 2 to 3 guys where now guys are going to have to hunt on their own. But for the injuries that they have, right? No Chinua, right? Losing Clark was huge. Their other edge rusher, Derek Clark. I mean, he's got 5 sacks on the season already. This guy is a problem, right? He plays in the back of he plays in the backfield. But for the injuries that they have right now, we can't afford to give Leonard Williams the Aaron Donald treatment, right?
But if we don't, what's the consequence? I don't think they have a choice. And they have to look at it and say, Byron Murphy isn't playing, therefore we're just going to have to live with whatever else happens.
Tom, you know what's sad to say?
Part of what they also have to look at Mafe and see what damage he can do too.
I agree with you, and I'm gonna be real. It's embarrassing to say, but they would still try to pass the ball, bro. That because of these corners, because of Pritchard and Brown being on the field, they're still gonna try to pass the ball. I feel like the game plan or the lack thereof, rather, because it's in some instances, Kyle ditched the game plan against the Jets. He went with the hot hand. He rode JP Mason and basically kind of gave us a little bit of, hey man, I'm throwing the playbook in my back pocket. We're gonna go with the hot hand. We're gonna move with Jordan Mason. He had a beautiful day on the ground. I think that game plan beats the Seattle Seahawks. We need to control the clock. We need to get them doing what they want to do best, which is passing the ball. We're going to talk about us on defense, on what we need to do. But my biggest thing is that I don't want them exposing what we do worst, which is stop the run. So we need to get to it first. We need to protect our defense by running the ball. I think we need to start understanding that if we're going talent for talent and if you're following the money, we are an offensively led team and we can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
They've bled
for a while.
Yeah. They've bled the depth. It's an offensive team now. So they got to start playing like they're an offensive team. We can't afford to have 3 and outs, starting games where we run the ball within like the 9th play in the second drive of the game. That can't happen, right? That's what happened last week, right? We didn't run the ball. We didn't run the ball to maybe to like the 9th play into the game, and it was in our second drive. And we had already thrown the ball 5 times before we had even finally ran the ball. When we got to, I think we were on the 6-yard line, was Jordan Mason's first carry of the game. That's disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like and this is what I mean by this. I'm gonna cook on this.
Okay.
That kid is saving us. Without Jordan Mason, we are done. Among other players, right? But everybody got their flowers when they did it. When Brock came in and saved our bacon, we all said it. Right? Even though Christian McCaffrey was hands down the best thing that our offense had seen in years, he was one of the catalysts for why Brock was able to show us how good he was so soon. But in the moment, everybody knew, hey man, without this kid, we are cooked. That's why I believe there's so many people that are galvanized around Brock because of how he emerged, right? If the first time you meet somebody is they're saving you from a burning building, it's like, man, I love that guy. This is the best guy on planet Earth, man. You know, Tom, yeah, did I ever tell you how I met Tom? Save me out of a burning building, man. Tom is the best guy of all time, man. So I understand it. But for now, Jordan Mason is the new Brock Purdy in a sense, right? This is a guy who was counted on at best to be number 2, okay? And that was after what he gave us in a great camp, all right? I still won't let go of my tinfoil hat theory that Patrick Jr. was brought in here to be a replacement for Jordan Mason and we're going to trade him, right? But Patrick Taylor Jr., sorry. But without Jordan Mason right now, we're a problem. And because of that, you can't ad hoc. That's not the type of back he is. He is a workhorse back. He's a first, second, and really starting to emerge as a third down back. Okay. You have to give him carries early. You got to let him feel the defense. You have to let the offensive line start understanding the line of scrimmage based off of the schemes that we're running for the day. All right. You can't have outside zone, inside zone, gap scheme, veer, split zone, all of these different running schemes that you have, and you're just going to run them for the first time when you absolutely need them. No, you got to be able to massage these things, dude. You got to run the ball on first down, Kyle. Full stop. You got to run the ball. You also got to run the ball on downs where everybody knows you have to run the ball. Do it anyway. Run the ball, bro. Okay? When you start going into the red zone, my man, if you had nice passes going to the red zone, you know that you can get closer, all right, to where you want to be on the field by slowing down the defense, by running the ball, okay? And then this is what's wild about it is that we're passing the ball, but we're not even getting to the best vestiges of what passing gives us because we're not running the ball. So our play action game sucks.
Well,
Sucks.
because we don't establish the run.
Come on, because we're not establishing the run. Quick game sucks. We don't even have a quick game, okay? Because there's no threat of running the ball. We finally started seeing a little bit of traction with the offense when what? When Brock started scrambling, when Brock stopped standing in the pocket, he started getting off schedule, making the defense play 11 on 11 football. We got to run the ball. It's our identity. And on top of it, I think that they have to start coaching up Isaac Guerrero to get him going. All right. So you can't use Jordan Mason like, a Fabergé egg. Like, you got to take him off the shelf. You got to get him going. You got to warm him up. In my opinion, I'm going to be honest with you. When he fumbled, I wasn't mad at him. He got 14 carries, man. 14 tries to be perfect. All right. And he fumbled fighting for extra yards. But when you're in the flow of the game as a back, you can understand I can live to fight another day. Kyle will see me again. I'll get the ball down. I'll make a judicious decision. I'll get on the ground. Hey, run it back. When's the last time you seen a running back go look at the sideline for the 49ers and say, give me the ball again? That's what we need. Taking over the flow of the game in the moment. All right? We ain't going to plan every win. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's out the window. We ain't good enough. We ain't good enough to plan every win like we used to, where we can just shock and awe, have complete talent, embarrassing riches at every position, and just blow flawed teams out. That's the truth.
Yes.
That's the truth. Okay?
Yes.
We can't do that anymore because we ourselves are flawed, and that's okay. But we got to have self-awareness, right?
Well, we have to coach this team to who they are now. This is
Right.
a team that has Christian McCaffrey. It has Jordan Mason. So you need to sledgehammer. You need to use him as a bell cow.
Right.
And look at the Jets game of how Mason got better as the game went on, as he got more carries. The offensive line got better because they got in a flow too. Again, this is a rhythm team. This is a run-first team. Coach to your identity. Coach to the talent you have. Run the ball. Establish that. Get a hat in a hat. Play physical ball. And take the game away. That's what they need to do in this one too.
Yeah.
They have to establish the run. You've got a team that, as you point out, the Seattle linebackers that are, the guys that can flow to the ball, but they can't necessarily diagnose. So you're still going to have an opportunity if you get your blocks where those guys can converge and they can gang tackle, but you've already got 3 to 4 yards.
Yeah. Like right here.
Build on that. Build on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm not beating up on you, Stovey. I love you. I love your engagement, but this is cap, man. The offensive line being bad and not as a reason why we can't run the ball it's a take that doesn't hold water, quite frankly. It doesn't hold water. We can run the ball. We can run the ball. Like, and as a matter of fact, even if let's just say that the take is true, right? Even if you want to go on PFF, ESPN, Pro Sports Football, ProSportsReference.com, anywhere you want to go, you look at the ranks. The Niners are ranked either top 5 or top 10 in every offensive line statistic down the board. All right, we're top 5 in run blocking. We're at least top 5 in pass protection, especially with the time that Brock Purdy takes, which he ranks in number 1 with holding the ball before he gets the ball out. Okay, so Brock is baking a cake back there. It's just the truth. I love him, but it's the truth. All right. But even if that were true, you ain't going to get no better not running the ball. Right? Yeah. That's why the name of the show is If You're Scared, Say You're Scared. You got to do it anyway. All right. We're going to have to, even if the run game isn't good, that's what we got coaching for. That's what 7-on-9 drill is for. That's what inside period is for. All right. That's what this is for. This, and on top of it, it should be something that should really bother Kyle to the core, because this is supposed to be our identity.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
He's gone away from that identity. The problem with all of this is that how does the offensive line improve? How do they get better in the course of a game? By establishing the run and letting them be physically dominant. Then they get into their flow. And when the offensive line gets in their flow, then the offense can ride along. It's rising tide lifting all boats. That's how you have to approach this offensive line. They're not doing it. Plus, Kyle isn't coaching to the personnel he currently has. You've got Jordan Mason. You don't have McCaffrey. So how do you adjust? More runs. Sledgehammer game. And especially against Seattle, they're missing people where you can take advantage of them if you run at them. But you also have to deal with Leonard Williams. You have to deal with left run balance. You have to establish Mason. But you have to give him an opportunity. If he only gets 14 carries, he's a bell cow type back where he needs carries to get into a better flow.
Yes,
and you have to know that that's who he is. And you need to coach your offense accordingly. You have to feed into the strengths of your players. Kyle is coaching and calling plays as if McCaffrey is still in the field. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not no new age fans, man. Like, I understand that the game has become very cosmopolitan and everybody runs a 4-4, and we've allowed Guardian helmets on the field, but there's some of us who are still from the 3 yards in the cloud of dust era. And we understand that the only thing that wins championships is what you can bring with you on the road because you travel. And the only thing that travels is defense and the run game.
And run.
That's what travels. Okay. So if you're going on the road to go see any type of tough foe in the NFL, if you can't run the ball and stop the run, you ain't winning. Period. Yeah. You ain't going to outscore nobody in their own home. The pro game ain't even built that way. Okay. So moving into our next topic, I want to get into Seattle's offense versus the 49ers defense. And if you look at what we have going with our defense, Tom, it hurts my heart, man. It hurts my heart. We're not the same anymore. It's a tough matchup. Seattle, let's just get into it. So DK Metcalf, Smith and Jigma, Noah Fant, and Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker III. That's what they bring on their offensive guys. We also know that they got Charbonnet and their rookie tight end from Michigan, who's another blocking tight end, another good guy that they have, who are some of their auxiliary players. Offensive line, we've got a likely guy that I feel like is going to be the mark of this game. So let me just go from left to right with the offensive line. We've got Charles Cross, 6'5", 307. He's their Trent Williams, right? Dog, my guy, first round, 9th overall pick. And honestly, in my opinion, one of the top 10 tackles in the league. We got another likely guy that we understand, Lincoln Tomlinson. Lincoln Tomlinson starting at left guard. Okay. They've got Connor Williams at center, who is also a very good, sneaky good guy. Somebody who I really thought that we could have kicked the tires on, quite honestly. Anthony Bradford, who would be brought up at left tackle, right guard, who struggles, and Stone Forsyth. As far as their offense is concerned, I just don't think they trust I think they have the same issues as we do on offense, where they don't trust their offensive line. They have two very good backs in Kenneth Walker III and Charbonnet, and they have Noah Fant is class personified as being one of the better dual tight ends who is a receiving threat and also a very good run blocker. But right now, like you said, and I'm just going to let you go ahead and take it away. They're kind of fed up the same way we are with the aerial attack of their offense. What can these guys do to be able to cause a threat to us on the road?
Seattle, first they've got Geno Smith, who's having a good year. Brian Grubb, the offensive coordinator from the University of Washington, comes over after developing Michael Penix, and I think he's helped Smith in his development and in the concepts that he's bringing over. So you look at this and say Smith is leading the league in yardage. He's third in percentage. He's throwing 72% completion rate. So they're doing what they need to get done there. The problem is that their offensive line is so banged up that they can't trust it. And that's been the issue for Seattle in both phases, offense and D, is that they've been so injured that they can't establish a rhythm or get into any level of continuity. So that's a problem for them too. But on offense, I think they will be able to pass. The Niners are going to be so concerned with Seattle going over the top that I think that they will try to take away the explosives. But in doing so, that gives Seattle underneath passes to just march down the field, move the chains. And then you combine those passes with Charbonnet and Kenneth Williams and
Kenneth Walker III.
Kenneth Walker, sorry. And getting those guys moving, I think they can get into a flow and do well. So the concern is, can the Niners stop the run? Sometimes, not always. Can they stop the pass? With Mooney Ward hurt, that's a problem. If I'm Seattle, I am drawing a target around Devondre Campbell, Isaac Yiadom, and I'm going after them relentlessly. I'm also using bunch formations where the Niners have had a lot of trouble in communication of who takes who and leaving an open man. And Seattle has the receivers to run a bunch formation and be a real threat. So I think they're going to do a lot of that. And it's going to be a balance of run, check down, screens, underneath passes to move the ball. And Geno can do that. Can their offensive line protect them? Their offensive line is third worst in the league in terms of giving up way too many sacks. Part of that is injury and health. Part of that is just general talent. So they have to worry about that too. But if they can get enough pass protection against the Niners, then they can get that done. And I don't like the matchup for the Niners against their receivers. I think that's going to be a problem. My other concern is the second half, that the Niners are an older team. They're coming into their first short rest game of the year. How are they going to hold up in the second half? I'm not convinced that they can do that, especially on the defensive line with the lack of depth. And that's going to give Smith more time to then go to those receivers and move the ball.
Now, I don't want to do this to you right now, Tom, but we might as well get to our predictions. Are you holding on to your original prediction? Because you and I had hot takes after we watched the Arizona game. We spoke. We both said what we had to say, how we felt about the game. I changed my prediction, okay? But are you willing to put it out there? How do you feel?
Sure. I have Seattle winning 27-24 despite the injuries. Reason why is the second half. I think the Niner defensive line is going to get too tired. And I think that Seattle is going to be able to establish the run and have a pretty good day throwing the ball.
Yeah. For me, I had the Niners losing after Seattle as well. But with the loss of Derek Clark, with the loss of Derek Clark and Owosu being out, I just think they're susceptible on defense. I think they can be had. And honestly, in my opinion, if we have all the tools to win, right? We can
Sure we
talk
do.
about the injuries that we have, but offensively, everybody's here outside of Christian, right? Kyle's just got to find a way. For me, if we're just looking at what they give us defensively, I think that we can find success. If we look at them defensively from an offensive perspective, I think we can find success on the right side of that offensive line. I think that Nick Bosa locked up against Forsyth and giving Malik Collins, because this is the thing. They don't, if they run the ball on us and stay with running the ball on us, then we're going to have a long day. But if they keep their DNA with how much they've been passing throughout the season, I really do believe that this is an opportunity for us to get that pass rush off the ground, right? Get Leonard Floyd going up against Cross, okay? Being able, Kalia Davis is back. Even though Kalia Davis didn't have a necessarily that good of a game, this is a game that's perfect for him because he gets to pin his ears back and go after an offense that's going to pass the ball 70 times a game, right?
I don't think they will. And McDonald has said that. Grubb has said that. They're not going to do what they've done in the last 2 games. They're not going to throw. They're going to run more. And they're going to run more than they pass. Everybody in Seattle all week has talked about, we are going to run. It's going to be
Right.
it's going to be the Kenneth Walker show. However, in balance with that, if the Niners play to protect against the explosives, then Smith is going to have gimme throws underneath. But I think what they're going to do is run, gimme throw first down, and operate within those 3 and just march. And I'm also worried that the speed mismatch, especially in the secondary with Mooney Ward hurt, how are the Niners going to be able to stop these guys one-on-one? The Niners are going to have to go and get the D-line to win individual matchups without blitzing, because the Niners are going to have to protect against the explosives. So
Right.
They're going to have to win their matchups. Can they continue to do that in the second half when you've only got 6 capable defensive linemen? That's my concern in this game.
Right. So the point that I was going to illuminate before you came in was, if they don't pass the ball as much, okay, what you still will get is one-on-one matchups. Okay,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to get one-on-one matchups. And that's where Kalia Davis, as I was saying, Kalia Davis coming in is going to be able to have likely matchups that he didn't get, that he didn't see last week. That's a rough game to come back from injury, if being Kalia Davis, who doesn't necessarily have that big of a football resume, right? As far as the NFL, where you're playing against a James Conner on one of your first games back, and they're running the ball and it's 100 degrees outside, right? We got to also, now the boys lost. They deserve to lose because we deserve to win, right? So it works hand in hand. However, I think that them going into Seattle, getting a reprieve, that was a tough game against Arizona. And for the history is concerned, they do play us tough, right? I just think that the Niners on defense are going to find some success against this offense. I understand, hey, running the ball is what we need to do, but I'll tell you this right now. This offensive line that they have isn't primed. The same reasons why I'm telling you that you have to condition yourself to run the ball is the same thing with them. They're not just going to turn it around in one game, right? Where they've been going for a straight month of playing football, where all of a sudden Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III are going to get 25 to 10 tugs apiece. They're going to run the ball 35 to 40 times on us, and that's all she wrote. That ain't going to happen. For them, I understand what they're saying, right? But for them, they played this. I think this is like their 3rd game in 13 days, right? So for them, I don't have them picking up just a completely new way of how they've been playing in a couple of days, but on Thursday night. We're going to see probably shades of them trying to run the ball more, right? Yeah. But styles make fights, and what they know how to do is pass the ball. I feel like we're going to have a lot more opportunities to get after them, right? And then also, we're an offensively led team. This depends on what we're doing on offense, where one of the main reasons why we've been like, let's cut the shit, man. We've been struggling with stopping the run for almost 3 years now. Yeah. It's been 3 years. It ain't just happened today. Even when we were at the best, at our best, we had problems stopping the damn run. And the reason why that wasn't something that necessarily rose to the top is because our offense we were engineering teams out of running the ball because we were scoring so much, right?
Right. Took
What
the
we
run
need to
out of the game.
Right. What we need to understand, in my opinion, and feel free to smack me down, what we need to do is understand that not only do we need to lead with our offense, but we need to protect with our offense. And we need to take the clock away. We need to be able to understand that our defense, they can't go 4 quarters, 70 plus snaps like they used to, right? Where they have waves of depth that just can keep the energy and the pace going. Those days are over. And if we have a very good defense, if they're fresh, our defense can actually live to fight another down or another series. But if you start bend but not breaking our defense, coming out, throwing the ball 4 times in a row to start an offensive series, right? Completely wasting a drive. And when I say wasting a drive, I don't mean scoring every time. But the same way that Kyle can say, when we remember last year, 30 runs a game. If we get to 30 runs, we'll be okay. Then you know what? Every drive needs to be no less than 4 minutes. We need 3 minutes and 35 seconds. We need to take a quarter of the time off the clock. That needs to be something that needs to be baked in as well. All right. So I feel as though that there are certain mechanisms that you can put in where we can make sure we don't waste drives. And successes don't always have to be replicated on the scoreboard.
Okay. My question to you is, who has the gun pointed at Shanahan's head to force him to do that?
No, I mean, his father. It's like, no, I don't. I don't know, Tom. I don't know. It sounds great in theory. But
I agree with the theory 100%, but you need Shanahan to buy into it. Maybe
True.
he will. Yeah, because in this game, I think that Shanahan has to be keenly aware of the fact that if they lose, what this season can become and how that can put his tenure here at risk. I think Kyle knows that he's got some blood in the game in this one. He needs to win this. Will that then lead him to be willing to do what he hasn't done his entire career? We'll find out.
Let's get to some super chats before the last topic of the show. Jen Callie 499, thank you. Can the Niners win if they keep doing walkthroughs month practices? Can the Niners win if they keep doing walkthrough month practices? A month of walkthroughs? No, I mean, the energy at camp was low. I saw it immediately. It's my first camp seeing them, so I don't even, I didn't even have like other years to go off of, but just how lethargic and just like really kind of like matter of factly, like, coming out here doing a little like special teams, bro. I've seen what they've done on special teams. It's a coffee break, bro. It is not intense. It's not an area of practice where everybody's geared up. People are talking. Other people are just doing things on the sideline. Guys are getting water. Players have their helmets off, talking with coaches. And then, like, here goes Jake over there kicking a couple of kicks. And then we just move on. Like, our special teams, we look how we practice as special teams. Quite frankly, I'm being honest.
It's a reflection of priorities. Kyle doesn't want to spend time on it, so they don't.
Yeah.
And we see that on the field.
Yeah. Like it was almost kind of like even during special teams, how like during camp, we're, taking notes and trying to point out who's doing what so we can be accurate for the shows and stuff. And I'll tell you, special teams is such an intermission of practice. Like everybody kind of takes a break. Nobody's asking questions. The players are not even doing anything. It's just something that, it's something I noticed, man.
And it sets a tone for expectations. The coaches don't care about it. Why should the players invest in it?
I agree. Steve Draper, $2. Thank you, bro. 49ers route concepts are long developing, not good. Well, yeah. I will tell you, right now. It's kind of, I don't know. Kyle played receiver. He's coached many different quarterbacks in his career. I don't see the quick game. I don't see the short to intermediate routes. I don't see the spacing or the mesh routes that we see. I mean, the best we get out of mesh routes right now is that deep over from Jawan Jennings that we get every time, or then they reverse it and give it to BA on the other side. I mean, we really know this offense. We've seen this offense a lot. Uh, um, I don't know why don't we have a quick game? And it makes me feel like maybe that's what Ricky Persall was here for?
Probably. Well, and also cowing that a player with his level of acceleration is something they're missing and need. Because you got Debo out there, and he's taken a big step backward this year. His speed, his yak aren't there, and his effort level. You know, you've run the film breakdowns on that, where Debo's just not making the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the problem with this team, I wrote about this in my game preview today. They've got a time bomb problem. Kyle overinvested in the veterans and then took the gamble that, okay, we're going to get guys that are healthy, that are best in the league, and they're going to carry the team. But then those guys get hurt, those guys drop off, and then you need to have your backups, your depth, pick up where the veterans are leaving off. And those guys are falling down too, because we had 2 bad drafts in a row, 2022, 2023, also made some bad free agent signings. So you've got this time bomb problem of too many of your veterans are gone, too many of your young players aren't developed yet, and so you've got this hole in the middle. And that's where they are right now. Part of that hole includes the receiver folks that you're talking about, because you've got Debo, who's a shadow of who he used to be, Cowing and Ricky Pearsall not playing yet. And so you've got a hole because none of that works. And fortunately, Ayuk filled that hole last week, played well. Jawan has filled that hole and played well. But you only have 2 receivers that are getting it done. The rest of it isn't because of the time bomb. And that's an issue in a number of areas in the team. You know, Devondre Campbell, where you don't have a linebacker that's in place to take over as the starter, because D. Winters is fast, but he doesn't have the diagnostic ability. And so you lose too much in transition. I think that that's part of the problem of where they are right now in the season, is that you've got all these holes. There are too many gaps where the veteran has fallen off and the backup isn't ready yet. And they've got a lot of those. It's a problem.
Definitely. Caesar, the QB room 199. Thank you. The QB room. I like what you added there, Caesar. John Lynch wants closers, bro. Your head coach is not a closer. I mean, I don't know. I wish I could fight it back. Joshua Edwards 199. Thank you. Let's see Kyle's red zone run versus pass. And look at this, right into the subject. This is why I like Josh, bro. You know, it's just like right when you think all Josh is good for is to come in here and trash the chat and be a delinquent. Here he comes and shocks us all with a super chat that goes right into the last subject. Look at God. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, man. Go ahead, Josh. So look, into our last topic of the show. All right. Kyle's offensive identity. Is he being stubborn or strategic? And what we want to do is start talking about the red zone. All right. We've seen it, right? Breaking down the 49ers red zone performances. Can they convert drives into touchdowns, or will they keep settling for field goals? Keys include execution, play calling, creativity, and player discipline. All right. So, look, what I wanted to do is get into the basic question is, why does Kyle continue to resist complimentary football? Okay. And does he fully understands the team's strengths, or is he being too rigid with his play calling approach? Tom, take it away.
Here's my issue. You know, I took some psych courses, undergrad and in grad school, in personality types and behavior. Kyle has obviously a healthy ego and he's a narcissist in the sense of he won't accept personal responsibility. He doesn't take it on himself. He'll deflect. He won't have accountability. That spreads to his team. There's a lack of accountability. Debo's statement of we've got the best team, but you don't have any rings. Diamador Lenore last week of they lucked into it. There's a lack of accountability. So on the personality side for Kyle, ego, narcissism. You combine those two and you get to a psychological term called narcissistic supply. It's an addiction to praise, admiration, and validation. It feeds the sense the person has a special, unique ability. And so how does that feed in for Kyle? He's feeding his own narcissistic supply. He's saying, I need to feed my own admiration and need for creativity. I need to be called a genius, and therefore I'm calling these plays. And it's to the detriment of the team. And you can't say that Kyle's doing this in response to something happening in 2024. No, it's been happening for 20 years. He's been doing this. Therefore, it's intrinsic to Kyle's personality. And I think it's narcissistic supply. He's addicted to being called a genius. He calls plays that he thinks will lead to that. And he calls plays that, as Acho said today, are essentially showing off. If you call run plays to kill the clock, you're not showing off. You're not serving your ego. You're not showing you have a special, unique ability. So he calls what he thinks will be the optimal play in terms of yards gained, but it's not necessarily the optimal play in terms of what the team needs. Your defense needs to run clock so they can rest. Look at the first Kansas City Super Bowl. Called passes. Garoppolo throws a pick right away. The defense gets completely gassed. Game ends. You have to manage the team. You have to manage the game. Kyle doesn't do that. Kyle calls plays to serve Kyle. That's the core of the problem. And that's what they have to face. I'm not trying to accuse Kyle of these things. It's just this is who he is. You have to accept the fact that he has this ego, he has this narcissism, and this is the result of it. And we've seen that throughout his career. I don't think you can make another case for why it could be. I think Acho was correct. He's showing off because he needs to feed. He needs the narcissistic supply. He needs to feed his ego. That's what's going on to me.
Is he tone deaf?
Yes.
Does he not realize, like you got to live to play another down? Does he understand that the plays that he puts on the field are being ran by guys with heartbeats in their own mind? Like, I don't understand. Honestly, I put out a video week 1 where I thought he fooled me, man. He got me. Like, I thought because of the running with Jordan Mason, the adjustment, that's something that we've been begging Kyle to do for a long time. And I was very impressed with how he completely threw out the game plan and said, you know what? Nah, we're riding the hot hand. This is what we're doing. It completely opened the game out. And you know what else? The offensive line needed it. They needed it.
You saw them feed off of it. And Mason. But it was a one-off. And why? Because Kyle didn't have his players through camp. He had all these islands. He didn't have a team. And so when you have that, what do? You react to the player that's doing well. And so he feeds Mason. All of us were saying Kyle finally gets it. He finally did it. And then every game since, he hasn't. Because Kyle defaults to who he is. Narcissistic supply. He's feeding his own ego.
I got a dog. You know Hannibal. Hannibal's my boy.
Hannibal's great.
Hannibal's an awesome dog. Hannibal's 170 pounds. Big boy. Big boy. One of my biggest pet peeves are people who own big dogs and they are scared of their dog. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. And the reason why is because you can tell the thought process that these people had, where they said to themselves, I want this Doberman Pinscher. I want this Rottweiler. I want this Cane Corso, this Cane Corso. I want this Presa Canaria. And It's going to look so good with the studded leash, and I'm going to be able to run him around, and he's going to look awesome, and I'm going to take pictures of him. But that puppy going to turn into a dog. And if you don't rear that dog, if you don't know how to discipline that dog, if you don't know how to build process, he is going to run you. And you know what? In public, for the most part, it looks good. You can walk with him, and it almost looks like you're the owner. But
almost.
But when there's another dog that comes around that challenges your dog, right? And you can't tell your dog to sit. You can't tell your dog to heel. You can't move your dog out. You can't make the dog do what it needs to do, right? All of that babying, that currying favor, that sleeping on the couch, that licking you in the face, that eating house scraps, all of that stuff comes rearing back. Kyle can't coach these boys hard. He's scared of his own dog. Running the ball don't take skill. All right? It takes grit. It takes hard coaching. It takes you looking at your guys when they're looking back at the sideline, when you've called the 5th run in a row and you're saying, you're going to run it again. I don't care. Right? Running the ball takes, hey, man, our energy today at practice was bullshit. And we're going to run it until we can't get it wrong. We ain't going to run it till we get it right. We're going to run it until we can't get it wrong. Okay? We're going to build consistency, because before we start throwing the ball, going empty on the 18-yard line, okay?
That was crazy.
Before we start sending Debo on the longest routes per average that he's ever had in his career, we're going to handle business first. We're going to run the ball. And being able to have that type of standard, you can't be scared of your dog. He going to growl at you. You're going to have to push him. He going to jerk the chain. You're going to have to yank him back because he needs to perform. Kyle can't coach these dudes to what they need to be right now. He's coached them like they're pampered poodles. He's loved on them. He's told them, hey, man, these plays are going to work. Hey, you know what, BA, you're the best. These guys are going to get wide open, and they believe it. Listen to Debo. Listen how they talk, how they have no humility or self-awareness after they lose games. When the entire NFL world is looking at them like, you don't see that you got embarrassed? You don't see that you need to go back to the drawing board? That's Kyle. He's enabled them. And now the only way to have a successful season is we're going to have to grit our way out of every game going to be a dogfight. Ain't going to be no easy games this year. And Kyle can't coach these boys like that anymore. They ain't built for it.
But he will, because he's Kyle. And that's my point on the personality. Another factor in narcissism and in the personality type. In analyzing Kyle, I think he's an ENTJ by the Myers-Briggs scale. That's the commander type. That type of personality has a real problem with borders. What's one of Kyle's chief issues? Befriending the players, not setting borders. And so you're the dog owner that's not disciplining your dog to perform the way you want him to. You're commingling. And you're babying. And that's a chief characteristic of ENTJ. You mix and you blur the borders. Bill Walsh, he refused to socialize with the players.
Nah.
He said that I can't do that because I need to coach these guys. We've got a relationship. We got a game to win. Mm-hmm. And the other thing with Walsh is he would know the way you win football games, you run out the clock to win. You have to see that as pure football. Kyle doesn't take off the offensive coordinator cap and replace it with game management or with complementary football. He keeps the Kyle cap on, and that's why he keeps doing this.
Yeah. You can't curry favors with these boys. Right about now, in order for us to have a successful season, we need a head coach. And we need a head coach that's going to make tough decisions, doesn't care how anybody feels about it. And, I ain't buying you talking to Brandon Ayuk about the wrong shorts. It should have never got that bad.
Right.
It should have never got that bad. You ain't fooling me.
Well, right. But beyond that, why did Ayuk do it? Because he saw the Cabo click.
He don't respect him.
Well, that too, but he saw the Cabo Click favoritism and said, okay, I want to push my own boundaries and see what I can do on my own where I can operate outside of the rules. And then Kyle said no and enforced it and stopped it.
Look, man, right now, we're going to see exactly what we're going to do with the rest of this season. They can't be cute anymore. They're going to have to fight, right? It's almost like that. Like I said, man, they're going to have to fight back. They're going to have to fight back because they've been punched in the mouth a couple of times. And they can't fool it and act like this was a couple of slip-ups. We're going to be able to get it back. We'll get it together. We'll circle the wagons. No. Y'all got punched in the mouth for a month, even in the games you won. Okay? And at this stage of the game, they got to show and prove. And right now, they wait and they fate is going to be tomorrow night. That's it.
Tomorrow night is a microcosm of what the season will be.
Yeah.
Are you going to go all in on the run game because that's how you can win this game? Or are you going to be who you always have been and try to get cute to serve your ego?
We're going to see what it's worth, man. I love it because they talk tough.
This needs to be a smash mouth game. That's how you win this game. Especially given all the injuries the Seahawks have. That's how you win. You have physical them.
Yeah.
But will Kyle allow his team to win that way? Is he willing to accept that's the path until he gets McCaffrey back? We'll see.
He's got to. And I hope they do, man, because I just hate seeing talented teams underutilized. Right about now, these guys have done, I feel like in a way it's their destiny. You played around, it was the rabbit versus the hare. You were the rabbit. You played around and slept when you could have just went ahead and finished the job. But now that you know where you are, man, burn it all out. Empty the tank. Who cares if you're not as good as you used to be? You got more than enough talent to be a good team if you would just get over yourselves. Don't care about how you look, man. Just go win. Nobody cares. Who cares about the stats, man? Just go win.
That's exactly it. Your priority needs to be the W only.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the style points, how you do this, if Kyle is called a genius or not. What matters is winning.
Yeah.
That's what serves everybody. And you need to call a game designed at winning, which means you need to have complementary football. You need to establish a rhythm in your offense. You need to realize that Jordan Mason's a bell cow. You need to realize that your offensive line needs smash mouth to find their game and continue to play well all 60 minutes. You need to know your team instead of just catering to what you know works and what you trust and what serves your ego. You have to coach to win the game. Kyle didn't do that last week. He better start now or they're going to go off the rails and the season's going to be done.
100%, Tom. No more cute shit. It's time to just go ahead and handle business. Let's get this last super chat out of the way. I3 $4.99 from I3, my guy. Thank you, brother. Hey, Tom, we got another one in the books. Tomorrow, I will be here for yet another live watch party at 8:15. I'll be there with bells on. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to curse, spit, shake the walls. We're going to do it all. Guys, it's always great doing shows with Tom, right? And you know what? We got to do it scared. If you're scared, say you're scared. All right? Tom, I love you.
We love you too, Coach.
We gonna talk, guys.
It's truth telling.
Hey, this has been the coach from the Coach's Huddle. Stay low and keep your feet moving. Talk to you guys.